Hello everyone, we're in the science lab and we're going to be doing our amphibian lab today. Open your books, but not your textbook, your lab books, to page 91, and we're going to take a look at this frog dissection lab. The material that will be due in your packets on the next drop-off date is going to be pages 97 through 99. And of course, some of that, probably about half of it, is going to be just checking off a structure as we find it, which, of course, a lot of that you're just going to find virtually. The questions, I'm going to have you complete some of them yourself, some of them I'm going to help you through. But I encourage you to watch this whole video. That way you kind of get the entire perception of what's going on with the dissection of the frog. We're going to make this hopefully not too labor intensive, nor something that goes on forever. And so let's start out. We're on page 91. We have gotten, I should say, a frog from the lab, and of course the first thing we're going to do is open this bad boy up. Now I have, since we've been out of school, not used any of these tools in a little while, so watch, my hand might be kind of shaky. So, here I have our frog. I'm gonna throw this away because it's leaking. All right. So here's our frog. You can see him. I'm gonna move this a little bit closer. Purpose: to recognize God's design for the frog, to see how frog was created to live in the environment, practice dissecting skills. Obviously, you won't be able to do that. It says, number one, observe the entire body of the frog. And then take a look, use a straight edge. I'm just going to use a scalpel. Draw a line right down the midline. We have the anterior is the front side of the frog. So remember, your anterior is the portion that points away from your body, and the posterior is the one behind you, and of course the right side and the left side anatomically. I don't know if this video is going to show your left and right's mixed up. I don't know. And of course you have the dorsal and ventral views on the frog. So a frog not only has posterior and anterior, also has it also has dorsal and ventral, because it's a four-legged animal. It says, with a probe, observe the nostrils, eyelids. You can see the nostrils. Let me get a probe. Nostrils here. Oops. And the eye, the nictitating membrane. I'm not sure whether or not we talked about that in the notes. The nictitating membrane is right near the nose. I can see it. It's very tiny though. It looks kind of like a second nostril. And of course the tympanic membrane is a swollen kind of ear section off here. I'm not sure whether you can see that circular dot here. There it is. That's the tympanic membrane. That's how the frog hears. Anyways, it's going to be a challenge turning these pages. I think I'm going to have to take one of these gloves off. Good. And so external anatomy, we found all those different things. Of course, you have the hands with the digits, the web, the cloacal membrane. I was thinking of how to say that. Ironically, I actually don't see it. Oh, yep, here it is. Right on its under portion, you can see that opening there. Its teeth, I don't know if we're going to be able to crack open these teeth or not with one hand. Let's see. Yep. Looks like we will be able to. This guy's got kind of sharp teeth. Let's see. Alright. So you can see its tongue, and I don't know if you can see the teeth in there in the video, but you can see both its maxillary and vomerine teeth. Its glottis, its tongue. If you're on page 97, it says complete the following items. What type of symmetry does the frog have? It is bilaterally symmetrical. Note the differences between the dorsal. This is a dorsal side. This side here, and the ventral side of the frog. Of course, there's major differences in color. This is way more bumpy on the dorsal side, whereas the ventral side is more smooth. The external characteristics of a frog, I'm sure you can come up with some things there. Describe the frog's skin. It's very thin, and I'm sure you can come up with some other stuff there. It doesn't have as much fat as other mammals. Obviously the frog's skin feels very slippery. List the characteristics of the frog's legs, the forelegs and hind legs. You can see here the forelegs have 4 digits, the hind legs have 5. Hind legs are webbed, forelegs are not. The feet are very large, whereas the frog's hands are very small. So those are a couple of characteristics for you for page 97. All right, now let's get into the dissection portion. I'm going to flip back to page 92, and I'm on letter C, where it says to make the dissections. I got to be very careful here. I don't want to get frog all over me. Let's make the dissections, and I'm going to make these hopefully as quickly as I can. Without damaging any of the internal organs. Good. All right. Good. All right, so let's take a look. And I don't know how far down the single point. There you go, that's not too bad. Good, we should be able to see as soon as we open the frog up. This is a challenge with only one hand. You're going to see some of its some of its muscular layers here. So right here you have a muscular layer. This is the this is part of its like rectus abdominis, as it would normally be described in a mammal. You can even see the lines in its rectus abdominis. This frog's got abs, kind of cool. Its pectoralis muscle, which is better seen here. You have things such as the gastrocnemius muscle, which is seen on the underside of its leg. It has, like you, triceps and biceps, and latissimus dorsi surrounding its dorsal portion. Now, if we were to remove the muscular layer, which I'm going to try to do. Fortunately, a frog's muscles are not as thick as ours. They're very hard, but they are not very thick. We can see the internal organs of the frog. That's pretty good. I actually have some very clear internal organs here. And I'm going to move to the next page in order to help me find some internal organs. Now, let's put this down, flip this around, see if we can get some internal organs going. All right. Now, all right. Good. All right, so this large organ here, that's kind of a pale color, that's a stomach. And this large organ here, that's this dark brown color, that is the liver. Right above the liver is the heart, which is also a dark brown color. I'm going to actually move the camera here. Maybe, oh, I can't even flip it around. So you should be able to see my finger is pointed to the heart. It's kind of small. You can see that it's kind of long in its appearance, not like our heart, which is thicker. The small intestines are these tubes underneath the stomach. You can see the tubes underneath the stomach, the small intestine. They're yellow in appearance, and the large intestines are underneath those. Frogs, as I mentioned in the lecture, have a unique organ called the fat bodies. Let me see if I can pick out some fat bodies here. Ironically, this frog doesn't have a lot of fat bodies. I've seen some really fat frogs anyway. I picked out some of its fat bodies. You can see that the fat bodies are kind of a fatty yellow color. Fat, of course, carries a yellow color. This is a male frog. I do not see any egg masses or ovaries. But I did see just about everything else. So as we take a look at page 98, we saw the major muscle groups. I didn't mention every single one, but they're visible. You can check off all the muscle groups. And the internal organs, we found every internal organ except for the ovaries and the oviducts, of course, because this is a male frog. And some of the organs, of course, were a little bit unclear. For instance, you can see this here, the small intestines. Let me get this pointer. The small intestines dump into the large intestine here. The urinary bladder is underneath here. This organ here, it's kind of squishy. It's because it's transitional epithelium. It allows it to stretch. Among other internal organs. Now, the only questions that are left for you to do are on page 99, numbers 1 through 7. Those include suggesting reasons for the color patterns. Well, think about it. And think about it in terms of camouflage. That may help you. Number 2, compare its external anatomy with the external anatomy of a mammal. There are some similarities. There are also a lot of differences. Explain why zoologists name bones and muscles of a frog like those of a human. That's just for consistency's sake. Number 4, suggest some reasons why the frog's lungs are rather small size. We talked about in the chapter on frogs their unique respiration, buccal respiration, I believe it was called, how they can just kind of breathe through their skin. That's why they don't really need big lungs. From what you know about the frog's life cycle, suggests reasons for the large size of its fat bodies. Frogs actually hibernate in cold weather. So during this time, it does not feed. It lives off its fat bodies. This guy must have just gotten off of hibernation because its fat bodies are very small. Describe the purpose of the mesentery. Now, I don't think we talked about that, but you can look in your notes here. The mesentery actually holds the abdominal organs in place. And number 7, explain why an amphibian's heart would not be suited for a mammal. Now, we did talk about the 3-chambered heart of an amphibian and how the amphibian heart is, it kind of mixes blood from the lungs that's oxygenated and blood that's from the body, which is deoxygenated. That would not be good for us. If your cells would receive blood that was only partially oxygenated, you would you would turn purple very quickly. Your body would not survive very long. Well, anyways, I hope this was interesting. We are all done our lab. Again, make sure you get those 3 pages into me and do your best on the lab report. And like normal, follow the lab rules as much as possible. The pen part, the name and the date, complete sentences. But unfortunately, you're not going to be able to get a lab partner's signature. But that's okay. I'll sign your lab report because you did the lab with me. All right. Well, less than 20 minutes. I thought that was pretty good. I will see you guys later, and I hope you enjoyed this lab on the frog dissection.